All right, let's dive into Hamlet.
Okay.
Act 1, Scene 4.
Sounds good.
You know, one of the most iconic scenes in English literature.
Right.
And you're probably listening to this because you've got an essay due
Yeah.
or a test coming up.
Absolutely.
So we are going to break down this scene and help you really kind of
Yeah.
nail all those big Shakespearean themes and ideas.
This scene is absolutely crucial. I mean, it's one of the real turning points, I think, in the play. It's where we meet the ghost, where we start to see Hamlet's, real inner turmoil, and where we begin to understand just how many dark secrets are kind of hidden beneath the surface at the Danish court.
Exactly. So we're not just going to like give you a summary of the plot.
Right.
We want to give you the insights that will really impress your teacher.
Exactly. We want to give you the stuff that you can really use in your papers and in your, in your discussions in class. So let's sort of set the stage here. Imagine you're on the castle platform. It's freezing cold.
Right.
The guards are on edge, and there's this sense of dread just hanging in the air.
Yeah.
Shakespeare's not just describing the weather here. He's using a literary technique called pathetic fallacy.
Ooh, pathetic fallacy. That's a good vocab word to drop in your essay.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what does it actually mean?
So pathetic fallacy is basically where the environment or the weather or the natural world reflects like the mood or the emotions of the play.
Okay.
So that biting cold that Shakespeare describes, it foreshadows all the chilling events that are about to unfold.
Yeah.
It creates this sense of unease both for the characters and for us in the audience.
Oh, I see.
So it's like Shakespeare saying, hey, pay attention, something wicked this way comes.
Okay, so we've got this creepy atmosphere.
Right.
And then suddenly we hear the sounds of partying coming from inside the castle.
Yeah.
Like trumpets and cannon fire. The king is clearly having a blast.
Exactly.
But Hamlet, not so much.
No, not at all.
He seems really bothered by it.
He is. He's got that famous line, more honored in the breach than the observance.
Oh, yeah.
And what he's saying there is that, the custom of this drunken revelry is it's more honorable to break it than to follow it.
So he's not just like a grumpy teenager who hates parties.
No, definitely not. This is a huge clue about who Hamlet is.
Right.
He is deeply disgusted by the king's behavior.
Okay.
And he sees it as like a symptom of this deeper moral corruption within the court.
Yeah.
We have to remember that Claudius, the new king, married Hamlet's mother Gertrude.
Right.
Very, very quickly after Hamlet's father's death.
Like suspiciously quickly.
Suspiciously quickly.
Yeah.
So there's already this sense that something is not quite right.
Yeah, things are definitely not what they seem.
Exactly. And that contrast between the king's revelry and Hamlet's, disgust really highlights one of the play's major themes, which is appearance versus reality.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Appearances can be deceiving.
Yeah. Keep that one in mind, folks, because it pops up again and again.
Absolutely. So we've got this contrast, this tension.
Right.
This sense of unease. And then enter the ghost.
Oh, here we go. Cue the spooky music.
Right.
This is where things get really interesting.
It's where the tension really ratchets up. And, Hamlet's reaction is so classic. He says, angels and ministers of grace defend us.
Yeah.
Which shows us, first of all, how terrified he is.
Oh, for sure.
But also this kind of like fascination he has with the supernatural.
Right.
He's drawn to it, even though it scares him.
Totally. And then he starts asking all these questions.
Yeah, exactly. And the questions are so important because they show us how desperately he wants answers about his father's death.
Okay.
He needs to know what happened. And that really hints at the play's other big themes: grief, revenge, and this kind of deep, deep search for truth.
So the ghost beckons Hamlet to follow him. And of course his friends are like, dude, bad idea.
Yeah, they're like, whoa, hold on a second.
Yeah.
Horatio and Marcellus, they're like the voices of reason.
Yeah.
And caution in this whole crazy situation.
Right.
They're worried about Hamlet, both for his physical safety, but also for his sanity.
Right.
And their warnings, they actually foreshadow all these tragic events that are going to happen later in the play.
No.
And they also raise these questions about the ghost's true intentions.
Yeah.
Is it really Hamlet's father? Or is it something, something more sinister, something trying to trick him?
That's a good point. Definitely something to think about.
Absolutely.
But Hamlet, being Hamlet, he's determined to get to the bottom of this.
Yeah, he doesn't really listen to his friends' warnings.
Nope. He says, my fate cries out, and he follows the ghost.
That's right. And that line, "My fate cries out," is some serious foreshadowing right there.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because it shows us not only Hamlet's courage, but also this kind of recklessness.
Right.
This impulsiveness that's really driven by grief and a thirst for revenge.
Yeah, he's not thinking clearly.
No, he's not. And that's going to lead him down a very dangerous path.
And then we get to one of the most famous lines in the entire play. Something is rotten in the state of Denmark.
Ah, yes. That line is so powerful.
It gives me chills every time.
It's not just about the king's bad behavior either.
Right.
It speaks to this deeper corruption that's like infected the entire kingdom.
Right, it's like a giant warning sign.
Exactly. And Shakespeare really wants us to think about what exactly is rotten.
Yeah.
And what the consequences of that rottenness are going to be.
Okay, so we've got a ghost, a conflicted hero, a corrupt court, and this like impending sense of doom.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack.
It's safe to say this scene is like packed with drama and sets the stage for everything that comes next.
Absolutely. This scene really is the foundation for the whole play.
Wow.
So it's super important to understand it inside and out.
All right, let's take a breath and process all that because things are about to get even more interesting.
Oh yeah, we're just getting started. This scene isn't just about, like big themes and plot points.
Right.
Shakespeare's language is so rich and so layered.
Yeah.
It's like a treasure trove for close reading and analysis.
It's true. You can really get lost in the words.
Absolutely. And if you want to ace that essay, you've got to dig into the words themselves.
Okay, so how do we do that?
Well, take that line we were talking about. Something is rotten in the state of Denmark.
Right.
It's so simple, yet so powerful.
Yeah.
What does rotten really mean here? Is it just about Claudius's actions?
Oh, good point.
Or is Shakespeare talking about something deeper, a kind of moral decay that's spreading throughout the court?
That's a great question for your essay.
Yeah, you could argue that the rottenness represents the hypocrisy and corruption that's infecting everyone,
Right.
not just Claudius.
Right, right.
And think about how Hamlet uses imagery and metaphors.
Okay.
Remember that speech where he compares a flaw in someone's character to a vicious mole that can ruin their entire reputation?
Yeah, it's like he's saying that one small bad thing can completely overshadow all the good.
Exactly. And that connects directly back to the idea of something being rotten in Denmark.
I see.
Like a rotten apple spoiling the whole barrel.
Okay, so we've talked about the setting, the themes, the language.
Yeah.
But what about the characters?
Oh, the characters. We meet some pretty important players in this scene.
Right, and understanding them is key to understanding the whole play.
Absolutely. So let's start with Hamlet.
Okay.
He's obviously grieving for his father.
Yeah.
But there's also this anger and disgust towards Claudius, his uncle, who married his mother way too quickly.
Right, right.
This sets up the main conflict of the play, Hamlet versus Claudius.
And then we have Horatio, Hamlet's best friend.
Yeah, Horatio's great.
He seems like the voice of reason in all this chaos.
Absolutely. Horatio is like a foil to Hamlet's more passionate and sometimes impulsive nature.
Right.
He's skeptical of the ghost, and he tries to protect Hamlet from harm.
He's a good friend.
He's a good friend, a loyal and trustworthy friend.
And then there's Marcellus.
Yeah, Marcellus, he's just a guard.
Right.
But he's a little more observant and insightful than your average guard.
Right, right.
I mean, he's the one who first says that famous line about Denmark.
That's true.
He acts as a kind of chorus, commenting on the action and foreshadowing what's to come.
It's easy to overlook those minor characters.
It is.
But they often have important things to say.
They really do. Pay attention to what they're saying.
Good tip.
Because sometimes they drop some major truth bombs.
Truth bombs, love it. And speaking of characters, how about the different ways everyone reacts to the ghost?
Oh, that's a great point.
Like, what do their reactions tell us?
They tell us so much about their personalities and their relationships with Hamlet.
Right.
Hamlet's immediately drawn to the ghost.
Yeah.
Horatio's cautious and skeptical. And Marcellus, he's absolutely terrified.
Right.
It's like Shakespeare is giving us multiple perspectives on the supernatural.
Oh.
And he's forcing us to question what's real and what's not.
And that ties in with that whole appearance versus reality thing, right?
Exactly. And the ghost itself is like a perfect example of that theme.
Right.
Because it appears to be Hamlet's father.
Right.
But can we be sure? Is it really a ghost? Or is it just, a figment of Hamlet's imagination?
Wow.
Shakespeare leaves that open to interpretation.
That's a really good point.
And that uncertainty, that doubt, it plays out throughout the rest of the play.
Right.
Hamlet is constantly questioning everything, including himself.
And that inner conflict is like at the heart of the play.
It is.
He's torn between his desire for revenge, his love for his family, and his doubts about what's right and wrong.
Exactly. And that struggle, that's what makes Hamlet so relatable.
Right. Even after all these centuries.
Even after all these centuries. So if you're studying this scene, remember, it's packed with important themes, complex characters. Tons of literary devices.
Right.
Don't just skim the surface, okay? Take notes. Annotate the text. Look up words you don't understand.
Good advice.
The more you dig in, the more you'll discover.
The more you'll get out of it.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask your own questions.
That's a good point.
What stands out to you? What do you think Shakespeare's trying to say? There's no one right answer.
Right.
And that's what makes it so fascinating.
This scene is like a foundation for the whole play.
Yeah, it really is.
So make sure you understand it backwards and forwards.
Absolutely.
And as you continue reading, keep coming back to this scene. See how it connects to later events and how it helps you understand Hamlet's journey.
It's all connected.
It is. Okay, so we've covered a lot here.
We have.
But there's one more element I think we need to explore.
Okay.
And that's the role of the supernatural.
Oh, yeah. The supernatural. That's where things get really spooky. Right. And that's what we'll talk about in the final part of our deep dive.
All right, so let's talk about the ghost.
Okay.
It's not just some spooky Halloween decoration.
Right.
Shakespeare is using the supernatural here to really mess with our minds.
Oh, absolutely. And we have to remember that, we're talking about Elizabethan England here.
Right.
Their beliefs about ghosts and the afterlife were very different from ours.
Yeah, totally.
For Shakespeare's audience, seeing a ghost on stage would have been, terrifying.
It was like their deepest fears coming to life right in front of them.
Exactly.
So no wonder everyone's freaking out. But the ghost isn't just there to scare us.
Right.
It's there for a reason. Right.
Exactly. It's a symbol, right?
Yeah.
It represents the unknown.
Okay.
Everything that lies beyond our understanding.
Right.
And remember, this ghost is claiming to be Hamlet's murdered father.
Yeah.
Back to seek revenge.
Which adds a whole other layer to the story.
Right.
Hamlet's not just dealing with a corrupt court and family drama.
Right.
Now he's got this moral dilemma on his hands.
Exactly. Does he believe the ghost? Should he trust this spirit urging him to commit murder? These are huge questions that torment Hamlet throughout the play.
Right.
And Shakespeare isn't giving us any easy answers.
So he's making us, the audience, wrestle with those same questions too.
Absolutely.
What is justice? What is revenge? Is it ever right to take a life? It's like Shakespeare is holding up a mirror to our own beliefs about right and wrong.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that makes Hamlet so timeless.
Right.
It's not just a ghost story or a revenge tragedy. It's a deep exploration of the human psyche.
It really makes you think.
It does.
So the ghost is like a catalyst, setting off this chain of events that will test Hamlet's sanity, his relationships, and ultimately his very soul.
And as you continue reading, pay attention to how the ghost continues to influence Hamlet.
Okay.
Does he become obsessed with revenge?
Right.
Does he ever doubt the ghost's story?
Good questions to consider.
And think about how that imagery and symbolism associated with the ghost.
Okay.
Like the darkness, the cold, the uncertainty, how those things appear throughout the play.
Right.
This scene is just the beginning.
Yeah.
Shakespeare is planting seeds that will blossom into some of the most powerful and thought-provoking moments in literature.
So we've had a deep dive into Act 1, Scene 4 of Hamlet.
Yeah, we've covered a lot.
We've explored the setting, the characters, the themes, the language, and the significance of the ghost.
We've seen how Shakespeare uses all these elements to create this really unforgettable scene.
Right, a scene that sets the stage for the entire play.
And remember, every detail matters. There are layers upon layers of meaning to uncover.
But most importantly, you've seen that this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, keep asking questions, keep digging deeper, keep engaging with the text. That's how you'll unlock the secrets of Hamlet.
Maybe even learn a little something about yourself along the way.
Maybe so.
So before you dive back into the world of Elsinore,
okay,
here's something to think about.
All right.
What if the ghost isn't what it seems? What if it's just a figment of Hamlet's imagination, a manifestation of his own grief and guilt?
Ooh, that's a good one.
How would that change your understanding of the play? Think about it. And until next time,
Happy reading.
happy reading.